The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every Tuesday by sharing the stories and advice from those rocking it on the other side. This week, you will listen and learn from Brian Bonilla, agency reporter at Ad Age. I loved speaking with Brian. Ad Age is one of the leading advertising publications you should absolutely be following. And real quick, they offer a student subscription. So if you still have your student email, sometimes it lasts a couple years after you graduate as well, you should definitely check that out. And I'll let you Google search that. It's a significant discount. And as you follow Ad Age with your discount, you will want to consume it all. But Brian Bonilla covers ad agencies, including creative and media shops, as well as experiential and healthcare agencies, and plus plenty more. We discuss what you should know about to get into one of these agencies in the business and the current state of them. He has articles about agencies you should know, recent layoffs, recent rebrands, agency wins, and agency losses. The content he writes about is especially valuable to the aspiring advertiser because he could help you strategically apply for shops. For example, if you know an agency just won a massive piece of business, then you'll have better chances of getting a job there. He writes about that. And the last tip in this intro, we'll let him talk. Follow him on LinkedIn and Twitter and turn on post notifications. You will get updates faster than anyone else and could get a head start on the networking or an application process that others might be falling behind on. That's at Brian Bonilla NYC on Twitter. If you follow at Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram and follow us on LinkedIn, I will be happy to get you connected to him or any of our recent past guests if you reach out. Now, on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Take it, Mikey. All right. Brian Bonilla, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. Thanks so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Gino.
Of course. I'm excited for this conversation because you're an agency reporter at Ad Age.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best publications out there for this stuff. I've been following it for so long and following you for so long. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking to you.
No, I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't even feel real. I make about 2 years in a few months. So
okay. Congrats.
Much longer than that, honestly. It's crazy. It's a crazy world. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Why go to advertising reporting? I mean, I've loved advertising for a long time. Have you? Like, what drew you to Ad Age?
No, that's so interesting. Yeah, I think, so I studied journalism. I grew up in New York City, in Harlem. And I knew I wanted to be a reporter of some kind. When I knew I wasn't good at sports, I wanted to do sports writing. That was my second, dream, I guess. And, I always just wanted to be a journalist. I studied it in college. And
where'd you go?
Brooklyn College. Yeah. Nice. CUNY. And, it's interesting. It was either journalism for me or copywriting. That was always my two,
advertising, copywriting.
Yeah, advertising. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. I was a fan of commercials. I was always just a fan of ads for some reason. Do you remember TBS had the funniest commercials of the year, whatever. I used to watch that religiously.
Sure.
So,
classic.
Yeah. So there was a time when I think I was 20 years old. I had a few journalism internships, and I was actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Patience and Purpose. They're like a healthcare agency in New York City. They had a 1 month summer program that it was you go after work. It's they get people that want to be copywriters and art directors, and they kind of team them up and give them real briefs to work on. And there's
nice
brief situation.
I've never heard of it. What's it called again?
Well, the agency is called Patience and Purpose. And, nice. A lot of agencies actually do this, and people I don't think realize it, where they have these 1 month long, 2 month long, just kind of incubator situations. I only knew about it because my friend at the time was working there, and she told me about it. And oh, sorry, we're gonna.
No, this is all. I haven't heard of this. So tell me more. So it would be after school. It's not an internship. It's unpaid. It's like a workshop thing where they pair you up and give you some briefs, perhaps, at this agency.
Yeah, basically, it was. I was intern. I had my internship slash first reporter job at the time. It was. I was making $12 an hour part time.
Oh, heck yeah.
The big bucks. And
Yeah.
and then I was also going to school full time. And then I was like, let me add something else on top of this.
There you go.
Well, I just wasn't sure, right? And I just liked the idea of creating, just writing scripts or writing something, and it was a healthcare agency, so all the briefs had to do with like healthcare issues like HPV, Hep C, not something that I think most people don't find exciting, but I thought it was super interesting. And, I would they would give us the brief for like a couple of days. And then I had to work with this like designer who was also trying to get a job. It's like a team of 12 people. You're on the same room. You're all trying to get a job. It's like weird, it's like
Are you trying to get a job at Patients and Purpose? Is that what it's called? That agency? Or are you trying to build like a brief up? Or people were like trying to impress the boss at the time?
You're trying to get the job there because it was like you were meeting with the teachers, quotations.
Instructors, yeah.
Were the like creative directors, chief creative officers. So it was like you were trying to impress them.
Of course.
You were hoping that would lead to a position. And if it doesn't, you have stuff to add to your portfolio, right?
Absolutely. It's a win-win if you work hard.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, it was a team of like 12 of us, and I'm still in touch with a few of them. And some of those people there, like one guy works at Gray now as a copywriter, and one
that works. Yeah.
Like an account person at Wyden. And so and those were some of the people that I thought were really good too. So I'm kind of happy that they, are still in the industry, but we would pitch different things, and I had this idea for like I think it was HPV. It was like a sensitive topic, trying to get parents to vaccinate their children for HPV, which is like a sensitive topic because it's like a sex disease. I think I hope I'm saying it right.
Sexually transmitted disease.
Yeah, and
sure.
And then the issue was getting parents comfortable having that conversation.
Yeah.
I remember writing an ad about like, a script for a commercial where like these two teenagers go, like, it's like a guy and a girl, like one of them is her daughter, and then they go into the bedroom and you hear like bed squeaking, right? And the mom runs upstairs thinking the worst. And it's actually, they're just like playing around, or like they're like, trying to find like something they dropped like under the bed or something, and it's like creating noise. And the whole premise was like, if it's not too early for you to think about it, then it's not too early for you to act on it, right?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then so I ended up getting recommended for a creative assistant role there.
Nice.
But that was around the same time where I got a job offer for a finance reporter job. And
okay.
Where I kind of went on the reporter route.
Right, because you were, so to back it up here, you were doing multiple things at once. You're doing this incubator, this workshop at the agency, this healthcare agency. Yeah. You were, what was the $12 an hour job?
Like insurance reporting.
So you were doing some like freelance, like side reporting, like smaller gig that you were getting your toes in the water there. And were you also still in school, or were you graduated?
I was still getting my bachelor's.
Okay. Was it like later in your degree pursuit?
Yeah, I think I was a junior or a senior. I'm trying to remember. I was a senior. FYI, like it took me a while to finish my degree at the end, but
okay.
I got that job, and they knew I didn't have a degree, and they were just like, we don't really care as long as you can write,
Now you got the reporter job for this financial reporting job. As long as you can write, you were finishing up your degree. You also got recommended for the creative assistant role at this Patients with Purpose agency.
Yeah. I ended up just going with the reporter role.
Gotcha.
But I still have I'm still in contact with some of those people that like were teaching there, and that is to say, like, I know that like one of the goals of this podcast is like the early stages of like how do you get into that industry. And
Yep.
honestly, like I mean, just in any industry, I was doing like 3 internships at a time. I was not just for advertising, but in general,
Yeah.
And,
you're going crazy.
I was going crazy. My grades weren't, but yeah. So and then I ended up, so I was doing finance for a while, and it wasn't my dream at all.
Was not your dream?
No, and I ended up doing marketing after for a fintech company.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, at least it's a little different. It's still finance, but it's marketing. It's like,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
Did you know? So you had your interest in like the advertising because you had that workshop, that incubator. So you kind of like you were interested there. Did you know that you wanted to report then on marketing, advertising? Like, would that be like the crossroads that you were super passionate about? Did you know that at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny.
That was your North Star.
I had friends who were like interning at like Organic, which is another agency in New York, and I had friends who were like working in the industry. So they kind of made me aware of Ad Age, right? Like I was aware of Ad Age.
You gotta check this out. Yeah.
I don't know, probably 18 to 19. I was aware of like them as a publication, and I saw them as like the industry standard, and so I always kept that in mind. Like I think I applied there like when I was way unqualified for a job.
Yeah,
like
you should,
and
shoot your shot.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I was aware of them, and they were one of those publications that I wanted to work in. So it was always in the back of my mind.
Gotcha.
I just didn't think it was a reality. Like I was literally like, there's no way I'm not qualified. Like
yet.
Yeah. And I ended up doing marketing for a year. The pandemic happened, so I'm working from home, and the marketing gig was cool, but I was like more video editing than writing, and nothing wrong with that. I just that wasn't like my passion.
Yeah, that's not what you signed up for.
Exactly, and I was ready to go to portfolio school. I'm not gonna lie. Like
really,
I was about to go into portfolio school. I was applying to jobs.
Which portfolio schools were you looking at?
I was looking at Ad House. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. With Tom Christensen, I believe is his name.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was looking at, I mean, mind you, I didn't know anything about like the industry besides that experience I had. So I was just like, hey, yeah, let me get this experience. And I was like about to apply for the new semester. I think it kind of slowed me down in applying because I wanted that real life experience, right? But I eventually was like, it doesn't matter. So I was about to apply, but I was interviewing for the Ad Age job at the same time.
And you still had your job at this making video, predominantly marketing reporting for the fintech,
right?
But mainly video editing as well. You still had that, so you weren't like fired, laid off necessarily.
No. Yeah, I was still working, and
I didn't quit. Yeah,
I was still I was just looking. I was like, let me get back to reporting or go into advertising. Like I have to
one or the other. Take a route and go all in.
Yeah, and I got the job offer for Ad Age, and
So you tossed that job in so you tossed that application in for Ad Age.
Yeah.
And were you confident? I mean,
no.
What they ask? I mean, I don't need to get into the nitty gritty. I am just interested, like just personally, maybe we do have an aspiring journalist listening, but really this is for the advertisers. But what was that application like? Really high level? Were they writing samples? Did a couple of interviews here and there? Like, what was the high level process? I
will say, like historically, like most journalism jobs, unless it's like higher level, I think at this point I probably wouldn't have to do a writing sample. But I did a writing sample. I had a few interviews with the different editors. I honestly applied on LinkedIn just straight up, and I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any realistic. I applied and didn't even think about it. I wasn't thinking like this is gonna happen. I think they were looking for like 3 years experience or 3 to 5 years, if I remember. And I was a year removed from being a reporter, so I really didn't. I didn't think anyone would give me a shot. Mind you, I applied to many different publications. It wasn't just Ad Age, even though that was the one I wanted.
Heck yeah.
And it just, I don't know, it took like, it was like a month-long process, I think.
That's nice. That's awesome. That's not long at all, I feel like. Sometimes they can keep you in the in the ringer for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I knew they were interested. I just like, I was also like interviewing for an Emblem Health marketing job at the time. Like it was
Okay.
a content officer role or something.
Sure.
And
Officer doesn't sound bad though.
yeah, officer doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, but you got it.
I got it. And
And then you didn't go to Ad House, and you're like, yeah, let's go all in then.
yeah, I was like, let me just do this. I mean, it's something where like I wish I could do Ad House for fun. Like it's not like I don't want to leave my job at all, but I'm like, it's one of those things where I wish I could see that experience, because I know so many people that have done portfolio school, and it's been a rewarding experience for a lot of people.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting insight right there. You would do portfolio school for fun.
I think I just find it fun. I'm just a weirdo. You guys,
that is pretty weird, to be honest.
You guys, like I'm super like energetic about this shit. I don't know, like.
Well, that passion that you have is probably why you got hired at that age. Yeah. Right. Like you're super like, to say that right there. I'd be like, okay, we're gonna hire this dude.
Yeah. No, I probably came off as crazy. I was like, yeah, I love agencies and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. So was this the agency reporter job that you've had since, or what were you applying to get into this first level, or this first
job? That was the job, agency reporters. And
perfect.
I think it was the best. I mean, no offense to my team. Like I think they do great. And I think this fits me,
Heck yeah. That's what I would want to do. I find agencies interesting. I'm interviewing a lot of people from agencies. Okay. Amazing. This portion now I want to get into what do you do and what are you interested in covering? And then we'll get into like, what are you seeing from the industry? So tell us about Ad Age and what you're covering. Let's go from there.
Super long-winded first answer.
No, you crushed it. That's all your background. We'll cut that there. That's perfect.
I mean, yeah. So what am I looking to, like, what do I do? What do I report on?
Yeah.
Right.
What do you, high level, like, what are you interested in? What do you want to cover? What are you seeing?
No, I mean, agencies are interesting, right? Because there's so many and they all do different things. Right. Mm-hmm. And when I was a finance reporter, I always say this all the time. Nobody wanted to talk to me because I covered private equity and they have to worry about SEC regulations and all that. Yeah. And on this side, it's the complete opposite. Everybody wants to agencies want to, get their story out there, and I don't blame them.
They want to advertise themselves and earn PR themselves so they can get better clients. That's what I'm trying to do as well, but it's hard. And it's like, we don't always have a story. Like, we got to get in the, like, and I tell like my folks, I'm like, we have to wait until we win new business or we have something really interesting that happens. Like,
I think it's the high level. It's like the obvious stuff, right? Like account wins are always like the big things happening in the industry. Account wins, executive moves, right? Like,
right.
That moves the needle in the industry. But like, what are you doing like differently as an agency that like others aren't doing? And I know that's hard because I get pitches like, I don't know, and like about agency culture, right? That aren't that specific, right? Like it's just like, we're doing a lot of great things agency culture wise. Our people love working here. And I get that pitch, I got to tell you, like, I don't know, once a week at least from a different agency. And like, there's no problem with that. Like, it lets me know who you are. So it's not like you don't get anything out of it, because I still will try to contact you if I can. It's just one of those things where it's like, you got to think a little differently, I think, because agency culture is real. Like, are people going to the office? Like, what is incentivizing people to stay at agencies? That's very important. But I don't know. I guess it's about the framing of it.
Yeah.
But, that's also important for us. Diversity is huge. What are agencies doing from a diversity hiring perspective? Not beyond the just beyond the numbers at this point. I think everyone's aware of the problem. Now, what are you actually doing in the industry? And I see way less action, I think, or real like actual like results from certain people.
Yeah.
And
back it up.
Yeah. And what else? I mean, big stories right now. It's like all the executives moving around in the industry is huge. Like, I think there was a 2-week period where like 18 executives moved around, big names.
And I want to pause right. I think that's an insight too, that I think aspiring advertisers need to realize. I was a victim of this as well. When I was a student, I wanted to go to the big names. We all know the big names. But people move.
Yeah.
The reason why that big name might be great right now is because of a certain leader that you think might be there that you don't even know. And then when you get there, they're gone. And that culture can shift. I mean, clients also shift. But I think looking into like who's working there, the leadership, and that's definitely more important for these agencies because people move around a lot.
Yeah. And I will say, like, agency brand right now, like, there's a real question in the industry. And I talk to executives all the time about this is, are agency brands even like important anymore? Like, does it actually matter? Like that you are Wieden and Kennedy versus who's leading Wieden and Kennedy? Well, I mean, Wieden will always have that. They still have that aura, right? But
yeah, of course. For
an agency, like, are you losing that? Are you losing something, right? Like you look at Dentsu Creative, like consolidating their creative agencies, like, you know.
I didn't know they were doing that. What are they doing?
Dentsu Creative, they consolidated their agencies. This was
like
back
Accenture Song, like kind of esque.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was on a smaller scale. Obviously, Accenture is gigantic, but
yeah,
it was like they had like 360i. They had Barry Bowman. They had all these different, agencies. They kind of combined it into one name.
Okay.
And I mean, look, maybe that's going to work. Maybe that's where the industry's going. I don't know. I will see. It hasn't even been a year yet since they.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I have trouble accepting that because I've been in love with agencies and like the branding aspect of them, and just I've been so obsessed with it. Maybe I'm an outlier there. I hope not. I like the idea of like hearing about the big names or mischief coming out of nowhere. I mean, we see that. I like that narrative. I like giving them a chance. I also think it's overplayed sometimes. I'm like, okay, we've heard enough about some of these agencies. Like, let's highlight some others. But
well, that's why we have like our small agency conference.
Love it.
Super huge.
Did you do that this year? Did you go to that?
Yeah.
That was at Escape Pod, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. Loved it. I love getting to just know these independent shops. There's a lot of strong ones.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to get back to something you said earlier. Like you were saying, like a lot of people that try to get into advertising, they focus on these big names, right? Like BBDO, right? Wieden, Gray, McCann, right? Like just naming a few, right? Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think, whenever people come to me, like, how do I get into advertising? I'm like, like apply to those places. Yeah. But like, try to find other agencies that are smaller and like doing interesting things, or like social agencies, or like agencies that are super niche, like get your foot in the door that way. You don't always have to like, aspire for like these big names because, you might be happier somewhere else, like it's not necessarily like about that. And, so when speaking with like different like CEOs, like portfolio skills, I think still are like where they look for talent, like,
they don't like to admit that. They'll never admit, and you'll see some of these like more forward thinking like frameworks of saying we're looking in our non-traditional places for our creative hires. Yeah. And that might be true. Mm-hmm. You see people doing like their own portfolio programs internal, like their own agencies, and they're just kind of shaping people to be their own. Yeah. But I feel like, I don't know if people want to go out and say that, but I feel like a lot of these agencies are still looking at the portfolio schools.
I mean, it's like, I think they are one. In another aspect, it's like, that's been the way it's been done, right? Like for so long, it's like, if you are an executive or if you're a CCO who came from a portfolio school, you have that remembrance. You remember that experience.
Yeah, that process, and it works. I mean, for the most part, it works.
Right. I mean, but we are seeing. I do like, while it's still the standard, right? I think I'm not gonna,
well, you report on it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but while I do think it's still probably the majority, I do think we're seeing more agencies, like you said, like build out their own situation.
Yeah, whatever they're calling it. I mean, I guess like, what was it, that healthcare agency, Patients, and what was it called?
Purpose. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like that wasn't like a school. That was just like kind of like hey, let's put it on our website and let's see what's up, right?
Yeah, like an initiative, a workshop, an incubator. I've heard it called. I see that, and I think like obviously the barrier to entry and like the cost obviously is outrageous for some of these portfolio schools. There are some cheaper alternatives out there. I'm not going to promote them. You can do your own research. I can talk to you on the side, but Yeah, I mean, I'm good. I'm not here for that. But there is a barrier to these things, and if we can train people in a different way, but I also don't agree like that agencies want to put their own shops. Like those are great, but then you're kind of training them your way.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be my only other argument. Like
I know.
but it's also if you get a foot in the door. So it's like we can talk about that for hours. I feel like.
Well, I mean, that's what I've been trying to think about, right? Because like I see the trend, I just don't know if it's like the right way to go. I just know that that's where it's going, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to. I mean,
if you want to say your opinion, like you talk to people all the time about this.
Yeah, I think we have something coming out that's like we're just gonna give out briefs from breaking and entering. Like give out good briefs to match people up and just give them more shots on goal.
Yeah.
Like a lot of time undergrads like they just don't have good briefs assigned to them from like maybe because the schools aren't giving out good briefs. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that's what we're trying to do is just give out better shots on goal.
I will say like one agency I think is doing it well, and like there's so many. I don't want people to come at me and say like you didn't mention. Like look, I'm just talking off the top of my head.
Yeah,
right
speak your truth.
Like one agency like Orchard. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're doing.
Yeah, who does David Cabals? How do you pronounce his name? Cobbles. Yeah, he runs it.
Yeah, well, he's the CCO. Mark Robinson, Laura Janess. They're like the founders. And
is that England?
No, it's New York.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, Brooklyn. I don't know how many. I think like 40 employees. I could be wrong, but
yeah. What are they doing?
Well, they're interesting. They have this like program where like, and they've been doing this. I think they're like a newish agency. So like they've been for 2 years now, I think, and they'll take like high school kids, like kids from like in different inner city high schools, whatever.
Yep.
And literally like give them like train them, like make them like give them briefs, like real briefs to work on with the clients and like pitch to the clients, and like not just briefs, like if they're interested in like the art side or design, they'll like give them an internship for that. And it's like a long process. It's not like a short thing. And like they literally like walk them through these different things. And I think that's interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm vouching right now. We're trying to get 2 high school students in our internship program where I'm at. So, but that's really cool. I got to take notes.
Do you think that's like where it should be done? Like it should be done that early, or?
Well, I think we need to expose high school students and maybe even middle school students about this industry, especially we're looking at underrepresented like demographics. So we're going to them and we're inviting them into our agency and telling them about this first. And we have a documentary that we show from our called Just Like Me. And then we're trying to the next step would be to get a couple to either job shadow and like really get into the culture here, see what it's like, or then we're trying to also get 2 internship spots for these high school students. So start early, show them that this is a field, and then they can work backwards as a good first step. If you can get them on shots on goal, get them briefs, that's great as well. Yeah.
And I think some like Tombras is doing something like that with like teaming up with the University of Knoxville. They're trying to get to the high school kids early before they're even like a final. That's another way.
And the creative ladder, like we've had Reiner and we've had Deanna on, like 4 out of 5, I think people from like BIPOC, like they just don't even know that our BIPOC don't even know that
it's so real. And this
is a field.
I'm Hispanic, so I'm Dominican and Honduran, right? And I grew up single mom, and like we didn't grow up with like the best of means or whatever. And I mean, you'd think advertising was like the first, like choice. Like it wasn't even on my radar, dude. Like it's not like it was not on my radar. The go-tos are like doctor, lawyer, or whatever, right? That was not on my radar, and it's not on a lot of people's radar. Like people don't. That's not something we talk about. People of color, like we don't talk about advertising. And it's hard because like I see it still. Like I mean, like I go to these meetings all the time, and I talk to these executives, and I mean, I met one Dominican executive, so far, two, and one is a CEO of like his own agency, like he started. So it's like, so shout out to.
So what do you? What do you? I think like for what we're trying to do at Havas is like let people know early on and show the people that look like them that are in this career and speak with them.
Yeah.
Like just to get that awareness early on. That's how we've been kind of tackling it. But anything else that you might recommend just for me so I can help like our community in Chicago?
Yeah, early on makes sense.
Get them in the door. Like we actually show them around and like we'll bust them in sometimes too.
Yeah, I think also like if you look at Kenny Thatcher. I hope I'm saying this right. His name right.
I don't know. That doesn't ring a bell.
You mind if I look it up real quick? The organization.
Yeah. Look it up. No rush.
And hopefully you can edit this or whatever.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's called like Growth Initiative, and then it's combined with this. It's this company called 100 Roses from Concrete.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
Concrete.
you know that.
Yep.
Yeah. Their whole thing is like getting people of color, but also people that, are older than like 20 years old or like, fair. So it's like, I think it has to be tackled both ways, right? Like, I think it has to be early on, but it also has to be like, there's so many people working a desk job right now that don't want to do what they're doing.
Oh, for sure.
Want some sort of outlet that advertising, I think, can provide.
Mm-hmm.
I think also like media agencies, maybe I need to learn more about what certain media agencies are doing.
I'm not too sure either, to be honest.
But that's part of it too, right? Like that's the whole other side of advertising that I think could provide the real job for people like that.
Good money in media side too.
That's solid. Like
they do well. There's a lot of money there.
Yeah, and I think that's another side where like I think a lot of focus is on creative, and I think that's right.
Yeah.
But I think on the media side too, like if you go to, I don't know, like if you go to a high school and you tell someone's parents, like, look, your kid could like right from graduating high school, he could start making 60 to 80K, media planning or buying or something.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's like that's something they might consider, I think
it's so important when you're to inspire the kids or whoever we're talking to, but we're specifically for like the younger audience, and then also let their parents know. It's convincing their parents. Like once you convince the kid, that's fine. And but if a parent is paying for school or contributing or is watching over what they're studying, and you got to get their approval sometimes.
You do. I mean, it's important. I think like a kid might not be able to explain it.
Right.
Kids.
So we need to give those assets. And like, this is how much you can make. This is what you can do. And it's secure. It's growing by X percent every year. I think just like giving that ammunition and those facts and figures and maybe even a handout. I think the Creative Ladder is doing this. And I know we're trying to do this as well. Just like getting those like high school kids, like to bring this home, show it to your parents. This is what you should say. No, if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. I think definitely the Creative Ladder is trying to do that. I mean, and hopefully like, I'm monitoring that closely.
Yep.
Also like, you're right. I mean, I don't know. I think like the parents and the kids and high school makes sense, but I don't know. I think I'm trying to think like, I don't know. I think the way people talk about advertising maybe needs to change. Maybe needs to be not just focused on like just the creative, like just like the 30-second spot or whatever. Like there's so many aspects of advertising that exist that need to be, I think, made more aware to people that are younger. Because I think like if we focus on just creative and like maybe the briefs need to be more complicated. Maybe that's what it is. Like the briefs that you provide to high school kids need to be more than just like, here's a simple brand campaign. Like what if it's like a business transformation? What if it's what if it's a rebrand? What if it's like a social campaign that's tied to like, out of home? I don't know.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know these briefs you're giving them, so I'm just thinking, but I think that's part of it too. I think diversifying the type of work that these kids are doing younger, I think will make them
open them up to all aspects of it, all aspects of the business, media planning, throw that marketing mix in there, throw like some other aspects of strategy. So it's not just the creative work. So you can see, help them make the strategy. And that's a great
strategy is huge, man. I I love the strategy side of things. Yeah.
I don't like thinking too much. So I don't know. Those guys got to think all the time, and they got to do research. And like, I get upset. For me, it's like I get like obsessive, and like that's all I think about. And then I'll just like I get weird, so I can't do that.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
I just like to shut down my brain.
That's funny. I feel you on that though. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we covered a lot of good stuff here. Any other like advice that you want to get out, or obviously we got to plug you and like where can they find your articles, student subscription? I talk about in my presentations too. I think are a thing that you guys do.
Yeah, we do.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Use if you school ID, I believe, and I'll put the link in there to where that's at. What else are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, back to like the different like types of internships that are out there, like the Black internship, BLAC.
AC, yep.
I think it's like in its second year. That's a really big one. That's and really trying to make a change. Goodby has its own school now.
The Academy with Dan Balser. Yep.
Yeah, Washington Kennedy still has the Kennedys. The one school, Barkley has Barkley. In Kansas City has their own accelerator program. For diverse students. The Stable is another agency that has like an apprenticeship that's like for people that don't have degrees at all. It's like,
what's that called? That's cool.
The Stable. That's an agency. Yeah, they have an apprenticeship.
Yeah, and Havas, you don't have to have. There's no requirements to.
Well, I was gonna say Havas also. Like I was aware. Like I'm aware as well.
For the Chicago one, we call it the Village. It's 11 people ish with the L's as ones, but 11 people ish can come from. We've had 35-year-olds. We've had young people. I mean, people that couldn't drink at the time. So from different disciplines, like there's no requirements. Just show up and be interested.
My recommendation, like, I don't know, like my personal experience, I focus so much on just getting internships and getting certain things early on in my career. I mean, people might not be in that stage at this point in their, I don't know where, like, depends where you are as a listener, but that was super big for me. And I think if you're like 25 and you want a career change, I would consider one of those like internal schools, one of those programs,
they like to hire those internal programs too. They want to see diversity, and like they're obviously trying to like get people to work directly. So they don't mind if they actually kind of prefer. I know the Kennedys with Jared Higgins episode was like, we don't really want advertising people.
Right.
We want
most people will be like, they want some sort of creative experience or some sort of something, but you don't necessarily only want an agency person,
Yeah.
Arnold has like this program where they hire comedians,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like, and Arnold, does all the work, like not all the work, is like the lead agency for Progressive.
Right.
And AmeriSave and I think Chewy as well. Which obviously Havas,
my peeps. Shout out.
Yeah. And what else? I'm trying to just remember as much as I can. And the other thing I would do, like, if let's say you have a subscription to one of these like publications, I would pay attention to like which agencies are talking about not just like these programs that they have, but like for example, like Group M has a thing where like they accelerate students, not accelerate new hires quickly, and OMD I think has it too, Omnicom, where like they purposefully teach these kids like early on, like not kids, new hires,
entry level,
entry level about the agency. They give them like extra curriculum stuff, so then within a year you're ready for a promotion or something like that.
Nice.
Rather than like waiting a few years. And I think if I was trying to look into the industry, I would pay attention to which agencies are trying to retain employees, not just like hire them.
That's a good call.
And I think also I would pay attention to like which agencies are opening new offerings and try to hit them up about that, because that's a whole new lane that agency is not even sure how many people is going to be hired, for what, it's like all the time that's happening. Like BBH has BBH Entertainment, like Horizon has this new Horizon Sports and Entertainment division. I mean,
there you go, new jobs.
You just I think you gotta be a little creative, to try to look in those new lanes.
And you know what I recommend? and I'm going to put this in the intro as well right away. Go on Twitter, follow you. What's your ad again?
It's Brian Bonilla, NYC.
And what I do for my favorite like journalists is I put on post notifications on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. It actually is a game changer because you get live updates, and like you guys you're like the Woj, like you're gonna drop those those news pieces before anybody, so you get that.
He's the GOAT, man. No, Woj is the GOAT. No, you're right. I think before I was even involved, I was following all these agencies like on LinkedIn is huge, dude. LinkedIn,
oh, yeah.
I love LinkedIn. I love using it.
I love it. I check my LinkedIn probably more than my Facebook.
It's my favorite social media. Like that's how you know. Like
I like TikTok. I'm all in.
I like TikTok too much.
It's so good. It's so tailored. I love it.
Like I just can't. Like I love it so much that I don't want to use it because I'm gonna spend hours on it. Like,
but for me, I've kind of trained it to be like productive in a way. Like it's not productive, but like I'm getting like educational content. Like I've trained like I like all the stuff that's good for like helps me learn stuff like journaling prompts. I'm like trying to learn about different stuff.
You're smart.
It does take over sometimes.
Mine is all skits.
Well, that's cool.
But yeah, I think that's where I would look. You know. But yeah, I think you're right. Twitter is definitely a good way to follow these people that.
Yeah. I mean, follow the agencies, but I'd follow more the reporters because you guys are telling it how it is. Like, obviously, I'm tweeting out from my agency account, like, "Oh, we new wins." Like, but I don't know. I feel like you guys are quicker to it. So,
and you see all the time, like on Fishbowl or whatever, like there's a new win, and then people are like, "Oh, are they hiring for that new win?" You know. So, do you think that's like a viable way to look at things? Like, if there's an account
for Fishbowl.
Or like, Fishbowl, but also like, let's say you're trying to get in the industry. You're like, this agency has a lot of new wins. I'm gonna try to find there.
Yeah, I think like if you're tweeting it out and it's coming from a trusted source that there's a huge win, I think it's definitely you should like it's more strategic to probably start networking with that agency rather than if you know somebody is losing business and not doing well or you haven't heard from them. Then it might not be worth because they're not hiring. Like there's no for entry level roles. There's no job season that like the internships open up at the same time. There's no job season that opens up. It's based off wins and losses, really.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, real quick. If you don't want to go to portfolio school, right? Like create your own portfolio. You don't need to go to school for it. Like you know, like create your own brief in your head or something, or like. You know, try to find a brief online. I don't think they're that hard to find. Or
we're giving out briefs.
Yeah,
we're never doing that.
Yeah, like create your own portfolio. Like I don't know if you've spoken to like Mo Saeed from Mojo Supermarket. Yeah,
no, I gotta get him.
He did that like that. He created his own portfolio. He was like shot photos around the city.
Yeah,
created like an ad, whatever.
Yeah,
and, like that was his portfolio. And now he's like the CEO of his own agency. I mean,
yeah, he's doing great.
You know, and it's, I don't know, like, you know, think about that too.
You got to work hard and like for real, like if you need help, reach out to me and I will pair you up with one of our listeners. And we have like an award show brief thing that we're putting out. So just want to give that a shout out. I'll help you out. We'll get you connected. We'll play matchmaker.
Yeah.
You need a partner. You do need a partner, like maybe a couple partners too. Like you can't be an art director and a copywriter. You should pick one route that you want to go all in on, and then I'll pair you up with somebody that is on the opposite side, and you'll work together. And I'll tell me what you're like, what you're interested in. Heck, I'll do it for you.
That's cool. Yeah. But yeah,
cool. So we'll put out those resources. We'll get your contact info. And like that subscription as well. I think that student subscription is just key to know the industry, be smart. I always say nerd up, know the industry, follow you guys, because then you can like strategically network. But is there anything else you want to get out to the people?
No, I think that hits everything. I mean, you know, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, you know, LinkedIn. Honestly, LinkedIn has my most followers. Yeah. So I post there more. So
that's the way to go. You got to be on it. Yeah.
Follow me on LinkedIn.
Cool.
But no, I mean, you know, I'll keep in tabs, like if anything new pops up. But I really appreciate it. You know, it was great.
Thank you, Brian. This was fantastic. I appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your day.
No, I had a great time. Take care.
Peace. Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. If you like what you heard, it would mean a lot to us and help us grow and get better guests and better break-ins if you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us 5 stars and a small review if you have the time. Be sure to connect with our guests if you like what they said by going to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. That's all one word, Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. We have links to their portfolios and their LinkedIn, and they want to connect, so do that. And thank yous. Thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio engineer, and Buchan Zhang, our creative director. Can't do it without you two, and a team from the University of Illinois. It's a student team from the agency called AdBuzz. They're a PR agency, and it's been a pleasure working with them. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing guest.